All right. Hey guys, Crusty Old Crow back again with another one of the tactical perspective toy discussions on the G.I. Joe Classified 6-inch line by Hasbro. Today I'm going to talk about the VAMP. It's been going around like wildfire since PulseCon 1027, I think it was, when we started seeing the new images of the VAMP coming out with Clutch. And a lot of discussion started going the way of what we should be expecting as far as a price, a fair price for this vehicle. If you're new to this series, to the collection for the G.I. Joe Classified, or you're not following any of the news, by now even you have probably heard that yes, the VAMP and Clutch are coming, and they're coming to the regular retail market as opposed to the HasLab market, which brought us the Dragonfly and the Hiss Tank, but did so at like a crowd-backed, more higher price point. They are expensive little kits and well worth the money, but they have a lot of crazy features to them and extra accessories and characters that you can't necessarily expect to see on a big box retail market like at your local Target, Toys R Us, Walmart, what have you. So really, I mean, if we ignore the trouble bubble that came out earlier this year in the States, and Canada is starting to see them now, this is really Hasbro's first vehicle that they're going to be putting out there onto the open market for us to buy off shelf. And I think it's really important that we pay attention to the benchmark that this vehicle is going to set as far as a price expectation. I think that can't be understated enough. And I think we've already seen where that expectation is. And so I'm going to revisit it, and I'm going to show my work when I explain where I think this thing should be priced at, what I'm expecting, and why it is. Now, understand, there is a hard difference between what I expect to pay and what I am willing to pay. All right? We're all collectors here, and we all are at this G.I. Joe Classified line for very personal reasons to all of us. For a lot of us, this is about nostalgia, and this is about memory. And some of us, it's about snapshotting a memory we had in our childhood and getting it back. And that's very much what the VAMP represents. It's one of the first vehicles they came out with in the line back in the 80s. The VAMP, the Mobat, and the Ram. I believe the Whirlwind cannon was a part of it as well. These were all the first rung of vehicles. And this was the first time, besides Star Wars, where you had a toy that could be played with an action figure that fit in your hands and wasn't this grandiose thing that took up a corner in the basement like the original G.I. Joes did in the 6-inch line, or sorry, the 8-inch line. Or were they 12? I can't remember. They weren't my toy. Nonetheless, this will set the benchmark, because what we pay for this VAMP, we can expect to pay down the line when they start coming up with all the different repaints for the VAMP, for Tiger Force and for the Cobra Striker or whatever it is there. But other vehicles that we want to see hit that open retail market and not be a HasLab project. I'm talking about the water moccasin for one. You have Copperhead, you want to have a water moccasin. Hopefully a Wolverine could be in there for our cover girl, who we already have for. You want to have, say, the Snowcat and maybe a Frostbite release. And of course the Awe Striker, which I think is definitely going to be on the horizon. So you want to have Hasbro feel open to do that, and in doing that they have to set a reasonable price that you as a consumer are going to respond to and validate that product being on the market and not being an economic nightmare on their end, not selling and being a peg warmer. And then we, in return, want to see more of these vehicles, more available to us, but not keep jumping up in prices. And that's going to be hard because we're dealing with plastic and the oil market, and all of that is one of those things that we learn price hikes happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over to the table. I'm going to show you how I've broken down the math for what I think you're going to be looking at for Clutch and for the VAMP. And I'm going to show you how I show my work on this. All right, guys? So I do this in my classic, crusty old crow way, and I'm looking at this as a a procurement logic question on what you're willing to pay for what was being provided here. And I think I got as into the nitty gritty in the weeds as I should. So let's go over to my fun little thing here. So here we have the display for today. Okay, so I pose it to us like a question that I would get in the classroom during training time. And I say that this is the tactical perspective, Krusty Old Crow presenting the quartermaster's question period. And today's quartermaster question period, question number 1 says, the VAMP will set the benchmark as to what to expect in the future with regards to pricing in G.I. Joe vehicles in the classified range. What is the expected price that mark should sit at? Show your work. Love, Sergeant Slaughter. All right, so we're going to go and I'm going to answer that question. On display, you're going to see Breaker. It says, little sign here, says, call me Lance. Okay, Lance Steinberg was the name of Clutch's actual name. And Lance was a military specialty of transportation, which means he was a driver and then an infantry. But if you read his file card, he's an ex-street racer, kind of a mechanic. And he's actually pretty good at close protection ops and bodyguard stuff, like all that other stuff, right? So, yeah, everything he's got going on for him, he's like PRT anyways. Breaker's as close a representation to Clutch as I can get, right? And then you'll see the kit that's laid out is actually very similar to, whoa, let's get that camera back up. Actually, I think that's fine. We'll get it back up. Sorry about the camera work again, gents, but the kit laid out is exactly what we see is going to be coming with the stuff he's coming with in the VAMP set here. And I'm just going to call up an image of what we've seen is coming, right? So if I pan the camera over here, you can see that in the new VAMP set, he is going to have a shotgun, a sidearm, a wrench. He's going to have the steel core helmet, and he's going to have his regular helmet, and that's going to be his personal kit. Well, if that looks familiar, guys, that's all of CoverGirl's crap, basically, with the exception of the helmets. He's getting her wrench, he's getting her shotgun, and he's getting her sidearm. And you can see right now Courtney's doing everything she can to protect that data pad because Clutch ain't getting that. That's hers. But so that's the kit you're going to get with your Clutch. And I represent that with what I've got laid out by Breaker. I've got Courtney's weapons and wrench over here. And then I've got Breaker's helmet and Grunt's steel core helmet. That is a representation of what we're getting. And then, of course, on top of that, you're going to get a vehicle and some vehicle kit that is coming that way. So what are we going to price that at? Well, first, I'm going to break down how I view a pricing working with a actual figure. And what we need to start looking at is where is our dollar going when we are buying these figures? Now, remember, everything I'm doing is based in Canadian pricing, guys. So for you Americans, it's basically, when I say a dollar, you mean, for us, I'm talking 75 cents for you on average, right? So for every $100, I'm talking $75 for you guys. Let's just work with that being the average logic, and I don't think the truth lands very far left or right of that. So in the background here, my math is as follows, okay? The components of a G.I. Joe classified figurine, you got approximately 21 basic components going on a figurine, all slapped together to form these articulate masterpieces that Hasbro has provided for us, okay? So from head to toe, you're looking at approximately up to 21 or more pieces, right? So you got one for the head, about 2 pieces in the neck, you got that 1 piece torso, then you got about 4 pieces per shoulder, you got a set of biceps at 2 pieces a piece, or like 2 pieces for the set, a set of elbows, and that's just an individual small piece. 2 of those, you got 2 wrists, 2 hands, you got the waist, you got the 2 hips with the ball joints inside, you got the 2 sets of the set of hips with the 2 sets of ball joints, you got the thighs times 2, knees times 2s, upper shins times 2, lower shins, which is the boot and where the boot pivots, times 2, and then you got a feet with the hinge times 2. If you were to take $1 a piece, and if they are paired like biceps and thighs, 50 cents a piece, you're working at 21 bucks right there, okay? Now, if I were to go into my sub math, I add any second layer adds. So things like Breaker's vests, or a belt, or perhaps a holster or something. Okay. And I add them at, say, $1 per add-on at an average of 4 add-ons per character. Usually it's 3, but up to 4 at the average pricing. So there's another $4 for the secondary add-on and accessories and things like that. Paint and detail and all of that. I'm gonna give you one free color on a figure. You can pick it. It's gonna be green or black or brown or beige. I'm going to give you free flesh tone, because no matter what, I'm going to have to paint the skin if there's skin. But then I'm going to charge $1 per extra color onto that figure. The more detailed and color I add onto it, the more that's going to cost. So an average of about $4 in paint and detailing going into the figure and all of that, right? So we're looking 21 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 for the for all the accessories, right? They often come with a gun, a second pistol, like a sidearm, and then some unique other accessory times 1 or 2, be it a headdress or a backpack or whatever. So another $4 for accessories. So you're looking at 12 and 21, roughly $33 to $34, up to $37, depending on the number of the pieces required with the kit, right? So that's fair with what I see on the average Canadian classified figures, averaging about $35 to $36 before taxes. So I think that's a fair breakdown of how we can look at where the plastic is allocated and putting a cost to everything, just in a general sense of understanding of why a figure can start adding up, right? So yeah, about $35 to $36 for your average figure, and that's not even a deluxe set. That's just your standard one you can pick up at Target, Walmart, Toys R Us, right? So that's how I broke it down. And then you got to ask the questions, right? Is it a new mold? Because if it's a new mold, you're going to have to generate that new mold, and that's going to drive the cost up. Versus if it's a mold that you can repeat, and we see that often throughout the series, 1 foot mold matched with an older leg mold matched with an older torso mold makes a new character. That'll keep the price down and affordable, right? So we have that. We know that. When it comes to the vehicle itself, and we're just going to quickly explore what the vehicle is going to be coming with, right? So we like the images that are provided just off a Google search, and I don't own any of these. So this is what we're looking at with a vehicle that has like twin 50 cals, a driver, removable lights, the trunk compartment and the back compartment open up. It's got a workable winch. It's got a lot of bells and whistles. I guess the gear shifter even moves from what they're saying. And this is a fairly substantial kit with the accessories. It's got the jerry cans, it's got a shovel, axe, and fire extinguisher tool kit. It's got a lot going for it. And then one of my favorite features is actually these D-rings. They're actually very realistic looking D-rings, and I love the fact that they're a bright yellow on a camouflage olive drab vehicle, because it just speaks to how they were kind of thrown on before the mission. And I like that. I like those little things, right? So that's what we're going to get for a vehicle. But if we were to break this down using a similar kind of math as what I used to talk about the figure, I would look at it something like this, okay? So I'm breaking this vehicle down into compartments. I'm thinking it's got an upper frame, which is your body of the vehicle, the green part with the black fenders included on that. And then your roll cage. That's going to be your upper frame worth of plastic. Then you're going to have your lower chassis frame of plastic. So the bottom part of the vehicle, that's going to hide the wheel wells and hold the interior inside. And then the upper frame will clasp on that like a clamshell. That's going to come into play for the amount of plastics being used as well. And then you're going to have your compartments and hinges. So when they have to mold compartments like the hood and the engine compartment and the trunk and anything in the trunk, there's new designs in there, more plastics, and then they've got to do a hinge system to make those articulate and functional, right? Then we also have the wheel assemblies. Like that's a fair amount of plastic and rubber going into the wheels, and then you're gonna have to have maybe metal axles for those. So that's more things driving the cost up slightly. And then your add-ons, you're going to have your fire extinguishers, you're going to have your twin 50 cals and the ammos, the ammo bandoliers for that. You're going to have the removable headlights and stowage stuff, all those little accessories. For each of those, you have to have a dedicated mounting point for them. Like a fire extinguisher will have a mounting point. It's just not going to be sliding around in the bottom of the floor of the Jeep, I hope. So these little things all start to add up as you start detailing more plastic and we start throwing it in. So if you break those components down, I priced mine very similar to what I did with the figure. So for the upper frame plastic assembly, so I'm just talking about the upper part of the vehicle, I figure that's about 1/3 of a figurine's worth of a plastics, and that's being really like cheap about it. It's actually probably a full figurine's worth of plastic, but for cost, I'm saying, let's say it's about 1/3 worth of the figurines worth of plastic when you flatten and smooth it out and get it where it needs to go. So I'm saying it's about $10 worth of plastic right there, there and abouts, maybe $7 to $10, okay? But we'll use 10 as my figure. The lower frame, I'm going to say that's about $20 worth of plastic because you got your interior and all that other stuff, the reinforced bottom and the interior details and any other structural support is going to be based on that bottom part. The wheels and the axles, I'm going to say those are worth $5. The twin 50 cals, I'm going to say those are a $10 model in and of their own. If you picture those added onto a deluxe figure mounted on maybe like a tripod or something, that would be pretty much what you're looking at a market value anyways of paying in Canada. About $10 for that detail alone. It's the same as blast effects for weapons. They're about a $5 to $10 component depending on which types you're getting, right? So you got to account for those. Any points of articulation, you got to get into having hinges and reinforced pins, things like keep them durable, keep them playworthy, and not turn into quality control nightmares, right? So I'd say about a dollar per each point of articulation. If we had the trunk, the hood, and the say the turret, 3 points of articulation, I'm gonna add $3 right there. The accessories, I'm not gonna throw a lot of money into the 2 jerry cans, the fire extinguisher, and the shovel and the axe. That's like $5 worth of plastic to me. So $5, add that on. Why not? The lights and the winch is working. It's working with plastic and it's going to work with string. So there's another component completely. And the lights, if there were what I'm seeing, there's a painted plastic and a clear plastic at play. So both those sets, and you are getting quite a few lights, by the way. I'm gonna pin those at $10 for all of that. All right, paint and detail, same as with an action figure. I'm going to tell you that you're going to get 2 colors for free on this one. You're going to get your black and your green, but I'm going to charge you $2 for every new color because we are doing a vehicle and it's going to be more paint and more detail, right? I've got to worry about a dashboard. I've got to worry about all the little signs and, coding and writing and everything, every little nuance you want to see on this vehicle, I'm trying to put on there. So I'm going to charge you $8 for that, okay? So the total of my VAMP, just based off that pricing system, guys, is $71. If you add a $35 clutch, which is really just a refurbished grunt meets breaker meets cover girl with some really nice tattoos and some great hair, you're adding another $35. We're looking at $106, okay? So that's set to me right off the bat, rounding up, you're looking 105 to 110 for what I think it's worth. So what does that make it comparable to? And this is where I said Hasbro's been testing us and Hasbro's already felt this out and they already have an idea of what works for them. If you look at some of the comparables that have been on the market right off the bat, the Crimson Strike team, or not the Crimson Strike team, the Cobra Viper Officer and Viper set, okay? That was retailing in Canada for about $135. All right, if you had a membership to say GameStop, you could get it for $120. But $135 was about the on average for that, okay? Then if you look at another larger, but I'd say deluxe, is Scrap Iron and the Drone. This one, we were looking at about $66 Canadian, and then $60 if you had a membership, right? So Yeah, about 65 bucks in there for that set. So you can see we've gone left and right of that $100, but you know, we've had a little more and we've had a little less. With the Viper pack, you got 3 figures and a bunch of blast effects. With the scrap iron, you got 1 figure, I'd almost call it a small vehicle, some ordnance and some blast effects, and very different pricing between the two, but similar amount of plastics used overall. Then you look at the new Crimson Strike team, and that's retailing right now. I seen that at a GameStop for around under 120. I'd say it's about 125. And then if you had a membership, you could get it for under that, right? And then the Trouble Bubble, the only other vehicle I can see on the market right now worth comparing it to, and that's about an $80 Canadian. I think it's $89.99 Canadian right now. So on average, if I just said 135 plus 65 plus 125 and 80 equals 405, and I divide that by 4, you're looking at approximately $100 average for these bigger kits. And that's what Hasbro is templating that at. But they are a toy company and they have to have a margin of profit. So 125, I think, is the lowest we are looking at for this VAMP, guys. $125 Canadian. And I think that's going to be the low point. I think 150 is probably going to be the high end of that. And that's Canadian. So for you Americans, I'm thinking you're looking at around $100, maybe 110 at the worst case, 115. But for the Canadians, yeah, we're looking at about anywhere from I'd say 125 to 150 for this VAMP, and that'll be the benchmark for things like the Snowcat, the Fang, if they ever get a Fang, and of course our beloved Oz Striker, if we ever get one of those. I think that's what you're looking at, guys. Agree or disagree? I'm always open to the idea of discussing this stuff, but that is where I am leaving it for today on my discussion on the VAMP, guys. And yeah, I do plan on picking one up for sure. I don't think I'll be picking 2 up. I don't think there's a requirement for me to pick 2 up. Did I just, yeah. No requirement for me to pick 2 up. But as far as whether this makes me uncomfortable as a classified collector, I'm going to say it like this. Look, everybody's going to have an opinion on whether these things are worth what we're paying or not. But for me, I have a value on my joy. And when I see these figures on my shelf, and I can remember back to a happier time, being an innocent child, before the world really sinks its hooks into you and reveals all its secrets to you, that has worth to me too. So I'm willing to pay a little bit of extra from time to time for such feelings. And I think a lot of us out there are. So yeah, it's fun to discuss what Hasbro does with points, and it's human nature to complain when things get a little uncomfortable, especially when it comes to money. But at the same time, let's have some perspective and just keep it fun, guys. And I really look forward to hearing back from any of you if you guys are planning on getting this this vehicle, if you have thoughts on it, or if you're planning on getting more than one, or if you're adamantly disagreeing with everything I'm saying and you want to let me know, feel free to do so in the comments. If you like this video, hit like. If you want to subscribe, like I said, I'm collecting you guys now, and I'm trying to get as many as I can, so come on over and I'll try and keep these videos fresh for you, all right? We'll see you next time. Take care.